Well, hello.
Hello.
So I'm being real silly, y'all. Okay, I am being real silly because I was just saying, I was just telling Libby, I love your glasses. I was like, I got some glasses. I never wear my glasses. Never
Oh,
wear my glasses. And my doctor is always like, okay, have you ever wear your glasses? I was like, I wear them in my purse every day. So So, hi, it's me. It's
hi.
LaQuita Parks. I am your host, and this is the power of your story. And you guys know my favorite word, excited. Excited. I'm excited. I'm always excited to have a guest, and I love my guest. And today I have the famous, and yes, I'm speaking it as it is, the famous Libby Warner with us today, all the way from California. And listen, we're just gonna have some conversations. Y'all know how we do. Y'all know how we do. For all you millions of people that are listening, you're probably looking at me like, "What? We've never seen this girl with glasses on." And I'm like, my guest had glasses on, so I thought I want to do it too. So I'm gonna try and keep these glasses on. No, I can't see out of them, right? Try and keep these glasses on, girl. But I am the CEO and founder of Pay Publishing. And Pay means pain, progress, victory, because I believe without pain, there's no progress. And without progress, there can be no victory. So I help people take their stories from a thought to a realization. I coach them, do some writing coaching and mentoring, and I absolutely love it because there's always somebody waiting on the other side of your story so they can get healing from their story. So today we're going to talk to Miss Libby about her story because this woman is amazing. And Libby, before you introduce yourself, I hope you're going to do a little reading for us today.
Sure, I would like
All right. Awesome, awesome. So please tell us who you are and where you're from, and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you dived into this writing thing.
Okay, well, hello everybody. I am Libby Warner. I am from the most liberal city, born and raised in San Francisco. Um, Nothing doesn't really shock me because I done seen everything. If you grew up in San Francisco, you saw some of everything. So I'm proud to be from San Francisco, the Bay Area. There's a lot of history there. Um, my family, my mom and my dad, they're from Georgia, as a matter of fact.
Really?
Yes,
What part
yes.
of Georgia?
My father, well, he was born in Bethlehem, Georgia, and my mama
Okay.
was born in Atlanta. So my mama was born at the at Grady's.
Oh Lord, she
She's
was
a
a Grady
Grady's
baby.
baby.
I'm a Grady baby.
Are you?
I'm a Grady baby girl.
Yeah, my mama is too.
Wow, we can swap some stories, I tell you.
Yeah, so and they left Georgia like during the civil rights movement. My father wanted to, better for his family at that time. So my sister and I, we was born in San Francisco. So when I start writing, actually, I never wanted to be a writer. I'm gonna go back to where I was 4 years old because I was reading something when they said go back to something that you always wanted to be in your childhood. And I said, well, I gotta start being truthful here. I always wanted to be an actress. So yeah, I did. I always wanted to be an actress. So I did start writing little plays here and there. I used to make my sister and my cousins and my friends, to perform and stuff like that. And if they didn't want to, I had my stuffed animals to do that.
You had your own audience, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
So
I love it.
and so I actually did. I wrote my first play when I was about 15, and it was for Black History Month, and we did the Underground Railroad from my point of view, but it was still the same story, but we just added a little bit more, to make it more alive. So, but going back to writing, I grew up in a home of domestic violence and alcoholism. My father was addicted to alcohol. I was trying to find an outlet at that time, and I just didn't know how to express myself. So my teacher said, my English teacher, her name was Mrs. Thornton, and she said, I want you guys to write a story, a short story, a book, whatever you guys want to write about. And the title wasn't A Time to Forgive. The title was No Longer Daddy's Little Girl.
Okay.
Because at that time, that's the way how I felt. Because my dad and my mom, they just had separated, and our lives was going to be totally different after that. So when I wrote No Longer Daddy's Little Girl, I was saying, she came from Mississippi and all this other stuff. But I said, but my family don't come from Mississippi. My family comes from Georgia and Alabama, But
Right. Where did you get that from?
yeah. And I was like, why did I choose that? But I always enjoy the Harlem Renaissance.
Okay.
So I asked my great aunt, I was about 12, and I said, Auntie, that's what we call her. I said, yeah, Auntie. I said, Auntie, tell me about the jazz era. And so she said, so she started introducing the jazz era to us. And she was taking us home one night, and she said, we're going to look around San Francisco. I'm going to show you guys something. So she took us down to the Fillmore District. And the Fillmore District on Fillmore and Gary, it used to be a slew of clubs. And it was called the West Coast Renaissance. It happened right after World War II. And she said that, I used to come down here and I used to party because my auntie, she used to party. I mean, literally. I mean, when this woman left Georgia, she left Georgia. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So she showed us where Count Basie used to play at, Duke Ellington, Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, all of the greats. She heard them play, and she also heard local jazz musicians play too.
So let me ask you a question. I'm sorry. Is that why your parents moved to California, because your auntie was there?
Absolutely. And my grandmother.
Okay.
And I'm happy you brought that up because my dad, he was in the army at the time.
Okay.
And he had moved to, he was stationed in Virginia.
Okay.
So he wanted us at first to live in Brooklyn, New York. Mm-hmm. My father loved Brooklyn. He said the Black neighborhood was good. He loved it.
The Mecca.
Yeah, he said that was like the Mecca of Black culture. Mm-hmm. So but he wanted to be closer to his aunt and his grandmother because I was raised by my great grandmother as well. Mm-hmm. So yes, that's why my father wanted us to live in San Francisco, so he can be closer to his aunt and his grandmother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that. So is this your first book? Tell us the name of the book.
It's called A Time to Forgive.
Is this your first
is my
book?
Baby.
That's your baby. That's your baby.
You know what, this book grew up with me because I used to have to put it on the back burner.
Yeah.
Because I had to go to school, I had to work, and then I went to Barbizon modeling school to become a plus size model.
Go ahead on, girl.
And then all of a sudden I met my husband. So I said, okay, I'll write it soon. And then I had a baby.
And you know what? That's what I tell people all the time. When we start writing our story, we if we don't have a plan, and sometimes we do, if we don't have an outline to say, okay, what's the end? What's the end game? I'll have people to say, I want to write my book. Okay, so when do you want to have the finished product in your hand? And they'll say, like, so we're in July, and they'll say, December of 2023. Okay, you're not ready. Yeah. Because if that's the case, then we already know life happens. So even if we say, okay, I'm going to do this and I want to do it in 6 months, or I want to do it by December, life happens. So that's going to be the first thing that's going to go on the back burner. So if we push it out to December, it's just going to wait and wait. And so I can definitely relate to that. I definitely can relate to that. You writing on your story for 5 years, and then you have a whole nother story to write in the midst of that.
Yes, exactly. You are absolutely correct. Because I was like, when am I going to write this? But then my mom, she surprised her. She said, I'm going to buy you an early Christmas gift. And she bought my first computer. I said, ooh, yippee. So I said, I don't know what to do. So I pull out in my front closet, I pulled out this bucket of stories that I wrote in high school that I had forgotten. And no longer Daddy's Little Girl was right there. And I said, wait a minute. And my husband said, you need to finish it. Just
Finish
like
it.
that. And I did complete it, but I didn't like it. You know, I was like, I
Why?
don't know.
Was it because life, so you started it and then you had to put it down, and then you started you had to put it down. Did
Right.
you not like it because the you were not the same person that started the book?
Exactly. I
Yeah.
wasn't the same 12-year-old, 15, or even 25-year-old. I said, I grew up. So I went back to college because I dropped, I don't know how many times I dropped out of college. I'm not going to tell you how many times, but
Well,
I
girl, I
dropped
didn't go
out of
back till I was out of school for 20 years. So it took
yeah.
me 20 years to get in there the first time. So listen, y'all, I'm so sorry. So I don't mean to interrupt you, Lily, because this is a great conversation. But I'm tickled to myself because we're live and life happens, right? It
Yeah.
life happens, and so I'm sitting here and I'm having my own private summer, and so I can't find my little fan, so I ease it. So I'm sitting here and I'm like trying to fan right here, and I'm like, why am I doing
Don't
this?
be
I see the
embarrassed
mush.
because I've been
So
having
now I'm
mine
like,
too.
okay, you guys, this is life. We have our own private summer, and so
Yes,
so I'm so sorry. So if you see me twisting, it's
that's
because I'm
okay.
trying to fan because it's hot.
I forgot about mine, but I got a fan over me. So,
Right? I forgot to
and
turn
I
the
got my
fan
water.
on. So I am so sorry, y'all. I'm sorry because I'm listen. I went from crying to flashing. So this is so so Libby, so when we start, when you started writing, and that's important because when we start our project, especially when we're writing, I tell people all the time, you can't put your whole life into one book
Mm-mm.
anyway, because it continues to be written. But that's why you have multiple, you can write multiple volumes, multiple series. But
Yeah,
you also have to know when you start writing and then you put it down and there's a break in between, you
right.
can't just pick it back up from where it was. You really
No.
have to start the whole process over because you're different.
Yeah, that's what I had to do. And when I went back to college, I took a creative writing class, and my teacher, I got an A. She said, "You're not finished with this." I said, "What are you talking about? I'm done." She said, "No, you're not." She said, "I want you to dig deeper."
Yeah.
And I said, "Why do I have to dig deeper?" I said, "I thought I was finished." And she was absolutely correct.
Yeah.
I was not done. So life happened again. My father, he died unexpectedly back in 2012,
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks before Christmas. And I said, I was trying to write. I said, I just can't. I
Yeah.
said, I got to mourn because it was just so painful at that time. Then a friend of mine said, you need to blog. She said, put it down for a minute. And she said, why don't you blog and talk about, your past and about your
Mm-hmm.
future and about you being this woman now? And I said, wow, okay. So I start blogging. And with blogging, it helped me to go back into writing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then I changed it from no longer Daddy's Little Girl to A Time to Forgive because my main character, Summer, she needed some time to forgive because she needed to forgive herself. She needed to forgive those that have hurt her. And it took her time. And that time also represents me because I don't hold grudges. It's just that when you do something to me, it just takes me time to forgive
You
you.
got to process it.
I got to process all of it. And I'm like, I don't hold grudges, but like you said, it just take me a while for me to forgive you. So I said, hmm.
Well, see, I have a biblical point on forgiveness, and and a lot of people don't agree with it. They may or may not agree, but biblically, when somebody does something to you or does a wrong to
Right.
you, they have a responsibility to come to you to ask you for forgiveness. And
Exactly.
if they don't come to you, and that's the question, if they don't come to me to ask me for forgiveness, do I have to forgive them? Well, here's the thing, you have to have a heart and be willing to forgive.
Right.
But give yourself some grace if somebody has done you some wrong and they won't forgive you. Then I'm not saying, oh, you got to be like, I'm not forgiving them, and then you have that
Right.
posture. No, not
Exactly.
at
No.
all. But
No.
you don't
God
owe
didn't
them
teach me
anything.
like that.
You
Yeah.
don't owe them anything. They
Right.
have to. And sometimes I've had people to. I learned that the hard way. I had people to do things, and you completely, you see things on the news where there's been somebody has murdered somebody in somebody's family, or somebody murdered somebody's child, and they're holding all this animosity, and the parents will say, well, I forgive you. Well, they haven't asked. But then you have on the flip side where you have those who have done the wrong,
Right.
and they've address the court and say, please forgive me. And in that point, you can't hold that anger. You can be hurt, but you can't hold that anger, especially when they've asked you to forgive them. So I totally agree. I have an ex-husband, and girl, it took me a while, because every time I would think about him, and somebody would bring him up, it felt like I would throw up in my mouth a little.
Mm.
And there was so much animosity.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, and it took me doing a Bible study on love to realize, because I was the first person to say, I don't hate anybody. I don't hate anybody. And then when I started, did a deep dive into love from a biblical standpoint, and I had just said, no, I don't hate anybody. I love everybody. But when his name came up, and I started, like, I
Oh.
was threw up in my mouth, I was like, wait a minute. So what's the opposite of love? Hate. And
Mm-hmm.
then I realized, I was like, oh my goodness, I
Yeah.
hate him.
Right.
And I had to fix that. And when I did, it kind of released something. It was like when people say it was a weight lifted, it was more of a wow, you don't know how weighted you are when you're holding unforgiveness.
Yeah.
So while you want people to, they may never come to you and say, please forgive me. You got to be in a posture to forgive, because it's for you to free yourself. But you got to process it. You
You
got to
got to
process
process
it.
it, and I totally agree, because I do believe in God, 100, 1000%. And I guess with my character, Summer, she had to really process what she experienced.
Now, I'm sorry. Is Summer? Is this based on a true story, or is this
It's
fiction?
funny how you said that. Half of it is. And
Wait.
the reason why, I'm going to tell you this. When I was younger, when I was a little girl, I was quiet. And my family used to do the most at the table when they used to pray. I mean, literally. So
Like
I
a
used to
Mr.
sit
Brown kind of
there,
thing.
and I used to be like this one time, this was funny. My dad used to overly drink on Christmas.
He was celebrating.
Oh, honey. And he was celebrating St. Nicholas, and girl, he wanted to do the prayer. He did the prayer. We didn't know what he was saying. My mother was halfway dead looking at him. And the only thing we heard was amen. So I put in the book, I put like a funny incident, not just like that, but I just made up something that was kind of funny about, being at the dinner table, because my family, my uncles, they used to just show out doing the family prayer at dinner, and it would just be so hilarious. So I put some of that in there, and then I took Summer as my great grandmother. My great grandmother was very outspoken, and
Mhm.
she's outspoken, and she has a little foul mouth, and her mother's like, "I'm gonna wash that demonic spirit out of you." My mother used to say that, "I want to wash that demonic mess out of you." And so, so I kind of put her in that. But the one thing about Summer, she could pass for white. My
Okay.
grandmother could pass for white.
Uh-huh.
But one thing about my grandmother, she knew that she was black.
Mm-hmm.
Summer knew that she was black. You couldn't tell her nothing. So I kind of put that in there. And then I also put in there, like when I said my auntie left Georgia for good,
Mm-hmm.
Summer wants to leave Georgia for good. She
Okay.
wants to see life, she wants to experience life on her own terms. And my
Mm-hmm.
aunt did too.
Mm-hmm.
My aunt, when she left Georgia, she went from Baptist to being a Catholic. My
Mm-hmm.
grandmother was mad.
Whoa.
They were like, how you gonna go from Baptist to Catholic? And my aunt said she just wanted something that she could identify with. And my grandmother she told me, she said, Granny was just so upset with me. Oh, she said she talked about me so bad.
She about to be disowned.
Yeah. And I asked my auntie, I said, why did you leave the Baptist church? I said, I'm just curious. She said, girl, your relatives was down there rolling around and acting a fool. And she said, I didn't like all that hoopling and
Yeah.
hollering and screaming
Yeah.
at the top of the lungs.
Yeah.
And she said, when she became a Catholic, she said it was so nice, peaceful, and quiet.
Mm-hmm. But she could hear clearly.
Yes.
She was
Yes. She
able to
said,
hear
I can
clearly.
honestly hear God just so clearly.
So how did you come up with the name Summer? Why that name?
I don't know. I don't remember. I just thought that name was just so unique
Mm-hmm.
and beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I
Yeah.
came up with Purdue. I just, I didn't, I
Were you thinking
literally,
about the chicken?
huh?
Were you thinking about the Purdue chicken?
No, you know what? I just thought about it, when I wrote it. I see that name Purdue. Hmm. That sound like a real, uh, what you call those, the real kind of,
High.
high society name,
Yes, yes. As my friend would say, high society Negroes.
Yes, yeah, and I did put that in there.
Okay, listen, you guys are gonna have to buy the book. Okay, is it out yet?
It is out.
It's out. It's and tell us how can they get it?
They can get it on my website at Edwards Publications dot. Let me see, Edwards Publication dot bigcartel.com.
Okay, good. So now you have another book that's coming soon. Is that a
I have part two.
part two?
This
Part
is
two.
where she sees yeah, this is where Summer meets Harlem. This is
Okay.
where we get to dive into the Nation of Islam that was coming up during the Harlem Renaissance. You get to see the drug use among black
Mm,
people that was
yeah.
coming. And then I do want to say this too. I have met beautiful black women, and this woman told me something that I was not aware of. She said, do you know that in the past 15 years, black women have left Christianity? And I said, I didn't know that. She said, there is a unique community that practicing hoodoo. I said, oh, who?
Practicing what?
Hoodoo.
Hoodoo.
Hoodoo. Hoodoo is it's not it's a different term of voodoo. And I said, I didn't know that. I said, I didn't know that. And then she said, there's another thing that black women are leaving to go to um, Hindu and Buddhist. And I said, oh,
Hmm.
I said, that's interesting. And I said, tell me about it because, I said, I'm interested about it. And I asked her, why? Why are black
Right.
women leaving Christianity?
Right.
And I said, this is interesting. And I remember my grandmother had a book that my cousin found after she passed. And she said, our grandmother believed in the folklore of the Southern, of the,
Hmm.
what you call that, superstitious.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I said, I didn't know that because I know that uh, dipping in the the black magic and stuff, I don't like that.
Yeah, yeah. We don't. I don't go diving and digging into things. If God didn't say do it, I don't do it. I
Yeah,
don't go digging and diving in that. But
no,
that's really interesting,
that's
and I know that you
interesting.
you bring that up, and I know that you are a history person.
Right. And I
So
put that in the book.
yeah,
I put that in the book because I said I want to have a dialogue about that because I just found that to be so interesting to me, and that black women are literally moving into these other circles, other spaces of religion. And I said, wow. So I said, I'm gonna write about it and I'm gonna put it in the book. And in part 2 of A Time to Forgive, Summer meets a woman. Now, this is true.
okay.
She does hoodoo and she goes to church. Now, there is a comparison. Zora Neale Hurston did a comparison
Beloved.
between the Pentecostal faith and the hoodoo community.
And so, and was that what was depicted in her book, Beloved?
Yes. No, not Beloved. Oh, goodness. It's another book that she wrote. I can't even think of the name, but it wasn't Beloved. That's Toni Morrison.
Oh, that's right. I don't know why I said Toni Morrison.
Yeah, it's another.
Um,
I read that years ago, and I was like,
right.
wait a minute. So she put the comparison in it, and I said, this is actually true. So, and I said, well, I said I'm gonna write about it because this week on in my mind readers group, we're gonna talk about it. And my friend said she wants to discuss it because she said I want to tell my reasons why. And
And
so,
oh, go
and
ahead,
when
go
I
ahead, because I
yeah,
want
when I
you to
was
explain
writing
at
about it,
mind readers.
it kind of made, I was like, wow, I just didn't know that. You know how you just don't know certain things?
Right, because I've never heard of that before, and so
Yeah,
I'm a researcher. So when we're after this broadcast, I'm going to go to the Google
yeah,
and and start doing some research on it because I don't I don't I figure I have enough going on than to start dipping and diving into things that I don't really want to be dipping and diving into.
right.
But at the same time, you also want to be aware of what's going on around you, so you can be able to guard yourself, guard your heart, guard all those things. And sometimes, and I don't know, and I'll ask this question to you, sometimes as women, especially as black women, and you're married, I've been married,
Right.
single woman, divorced right now, but we sometimes as women we find ourselves, we're searching for something, and instead of addressing what it is, we start searching for something, and we get involved in this thing, and we're just continually piling things on
And,
instead
and,
of addressing what's going on. Do you
and I
agree with
agree.
that? Or
I totally agree with that. That's why I put it in the book
mm,
because Summer was looking for something
mhm, mhm,
and she was
mhm,
searching for something,
mhm,
and she met this black woman that, number one, that did not just expose her to this hoodoo, but she also exposed her to let her know how it's okay for you, it's okay for you to say certain words about your body parts that she thought that they were nasty. She thought her
mhm,
body was nasty.
mhm,
Back
mhm,
because this book is a backstory and this is
mhm.
historical fiction in the 1930s.
Oh
If you
yeah.
say the word breast, that was just like, oh my God.
Oh
Whew.
yeah. Oh, there
You
were so
know,
many things and that makes sense because there are so many things that was accepted that was not acceptable.
accepted. Mm-hmm.
Everybody stayed in the closet.
Yeah.
There was an exclusive area, and on that side of town, this is what you did. Cancer was not a word. It was
No.
very quiet. It was the C word, and if they didn't even say the C word, it's just something
Mm-mm.
happened, and they just kind of escorted that person out of the family, and they sent them somewhere to die.
Yes.
So now
Exactly.
we have evolved a little too much sometimes, if you
Yeah,
ask
we
me.
have.
And,
Yeah.
some like stay in the closet. Some things don't need to be don't
Some
you don't
things
need
just
to
don't need to be
tell.
out. And just not only I talked about hoodoo, but I also talk about the mental health.
Yes.
Her sister Flossie Mae had a mental
Wait,
health
wait.
issue.
I'm sorry. Flossie May.
Flossie Mae.
Where did that name come
I
from?
don't know. I was laying in my bed one
You
night.
were just like,
And it
okay,
just came to me,
today, okay,
Flossie
your
Mae. I said,
name, Mama name gonna be Mary Kate. Daddy name gonna be John Boy something. And Flossie May gonna be.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
And they didn't know what was going on. So I looked up the word back then. They used to call people slow coach because her mind used to go from being this normal woman, and then her mind just abruptly goes into this childlike behavior.
Right. Say delay switch.
So, and the reason why I'm bringing all this stuff up, not all this stuff, but all these social awareness is because we don't really talk about it. We don't want to talk about it sometimes. And I said, you know what? I want to talk about it. I want to talk about, mental health and religion, because a lot of my friends, they be like, Libby, I have these questions and stuff. And I said, well, you know what? Tell me about it. I'm gonna write about it.
Okay, right. I like that. For me, there's always among your friends, there's always the go-to person.
Mm-hmm.
Let me call and ask, and so I'm the go-to person.
Yeah, I am too.
Let me ask you a question. I believe you are. I believe you are. Let me ask you a question. Or what did you think about this? Or can you hear
Yeah.
this? And sometimes people don't really want to hear what you have to say.
No.
And so I have 3 children, and my youngest daughter, I'll say to her, and the girls are 5 years apart, but they think alike sometimes. And I'll say, how is such and such doing? And she'll say, oh, she's have you talked to your cousin? I saw her yesterday. Well, how's she doing? She's doing fine. Well, is she working yet? I don't know. Well, how's the, I don't know, mama. And I'm like, well, why don't you know? And she was like, because I don't want to ask questions, because when you start asking people questions, then they mistake your questions to think that you care enough to be in the business. And I don't want to, I don't want to. And so I thought about it. I was like, well, that's kind of rude. But then she's younger. She's 20 something years younger than me. And the mindset is different because they're the microwave generation, and
they are.
And they don't have time to sit down and sort somebody's issues. Now we are a different generation. We want to sit down, baby, tell me all about it. And let's see what we can do about it. And how can we get, that's us, and especially as a coach, as coaches and mentors, and you're a publisher too. That's the life that we chose. So we're the ears to somebody's, we're the ears to somebody's needing to vent or needing to talk it out,
right,
and help them sort through the madness. So I like the fact that you have included in your book, part 1 and part 2, you've included history and those things that are not said. You talk about your father being a drinker. My mom was an alcoholic, and I never shared that with anybody.
Wow.
And I when I got older, and I've come to understand it more. I remember when I would go over, and one time she had been drinking so much, and I was like, I'm trying to talk to her. And she was just, I'm trying to have a conversation. And my friend said, you're trying to have a sober conversation with a drunk man.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Yeah,
and I stopped going around for a long time. And then somebody said, you know what? You have put her and her issue all in the same box. You can't do that. In order for you to be there, because I love my mom, be there, you're going to have to separate her drinking from who she is. And it took me a while to understand that.
Yeah.
And my mom passed away in 2009. And it took me a long time to understand that, especially now as a mother, and I have grandchildren now. She did the very best that she could.
Right.
And so with your child, with all children, we expect our children to do better than us.
Right.
And so as I sat and I thought about it, there wasn't a reason for me to hold some sense of unforgiveness for my mom. We were evicted from every place we ever lived. I never understood that. But then when I got older and I became a single mother, no child support with 3 kids. Now, we were never evicted. But I looked at my mom's life. She did the best she could. She didn't have any help. She was a teenager when she had us.
Wow.
I was the second child. She was 17 years old. And then she had another child. So by the time my mom was 20 years old, she already had 3 children.
Wow.
So in understanding that, coupled with my children and trying to raise them the best I could, and I didn't do the drinking and all that, it was hard. So I could not do anything but forgive my mom, because it's like she did the best she could.
Mhm.
And for me to be the quote unquote crippled child, and I'm not by any means, listen, I know, don't send me no phone calls, don't send me no text messages,
Right,
and
right. You
you
just,
not
yeah.
crippled. I'm just saying,
And this is
I'm just
just you
saying
just
what other
saying.
people
Yeah.
said. But even with that, knowing that, there was not, I did not miss one doctor's appointment. Never missed a doctor. And I had doctor's appointment, physical therapy, occupational therapy. I had to go every week. So when people had your chore list on the refrigerator, they had a list on who was taking LaQuita to the doctor this week. Whose time was it? But I never missed an appointment. With everything that she went through, she made sure that I got the medical attention that I needed. So,
It's funny how you said that, because despite all, I used to blame my father. I used to blame the men that used to come into my life, compare
mhm,
them to my daddy, had them daddy issues, and
looking for daddy, or looking
looking for
looking for
daddy,
the
and,
opposite.
and this man, and that
That's
man,
right.
the other man, all that crazy stuff. And I remember a friend of mine, we was on our way home from work, and we was getting off the bus, and she said, you have to, she said, you're going to have to accept your father drinking one way or the other.
Yep.
And I said, and she said, no, she said, you're going to have to. Because she pointed to me when we got off the bus. She said, that's where my father is. Her father was literally in the gutter.
Wow.
He was drunk,
Wow.
high, and she said, you're going to have to forgive that man. She said, every single day when she see her father, he didn't even know that she even existed. She said, daddy, I forgive you. And she, every single day every time she passed by him, she'll tell him that. So I went into the mirror and I said, daddy, I forgive you. And I'm gonna tell you something. When he passed, he stopped drinking 7 years before he passed.
Mhm.
So when he was passing away, I looked in the mirror and I finally said these words: I am an adult child with an alcoholic father. Do you know that freed me right then and there
Yes.
that day?
Yes.
And I said,
Yes.
even though I was crying, and I said, I'm 37 years old and I got to bury my daddy. I said, I never thought that I would have to bury him at 37 years
Mhm.
old.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
said every morning when he was passing away, I had to tell myself that, and I felt so much better. And
That's that forgiveness.
it's that, yeah, yeah,
For the giving for you. And you know what, when you said your friend would pass by the gutter, I have that picture in my head. There are people who are walking around in the gutter and they don't know it.
they don't know it.
They're walking around and they're holding and they're harboring, and they just don't know. That's why I love that there are people waiting on the other side of your story so that they can get healing from their story.
Yeah,
I love that, because with your book, there are people, there's a history lesson. I can't wait to get it. There's a history lesson in there. And as I'm thinking about your friend, I'm like, something just kind of grabbed a hold of my heart. How strong do you have to be to walk by the gutter every day and see the person laying in the gutter is your dad?
yeah.
How strong do you have to
I
be to do that? You know what I'm
I just,
saying?
and I felt so. She said, "Don't feel bad for me." She said, "I'm okay," because she said,
Strong.
"You know what?" She said, "Because I came to the conclusion in life." And she said, whenever he wants to, get well and stay off the dope and stay off the bottom, she said, I'm gonna be here. And then
Mhm.
I remember what my mother said. My mother used to tell us, leave that door open for your
That's right.
father.
That's the thing. And most people close the door, because you know what? I had to learn that too. It was not, like, okay, I'm judging my mom. I'm judging her because she had a vice that I didn't have.
Right.
Okay. So I wasn't a drinker, but I was doing some other things. I didn't do drugs, but I might have been promiscuous.
Right.
I didn't do this. You may not do this, but you do that. So I'm judging this thing because I'm not doing that thing. And so you're right. Just like you, I had to say, you know what? I had to remove that away. And I stayed away and I was wrong for that. But when you know better, you do
Do
better.
better.
But
Yep.
girl, standing in the mirror and looking at yourself in the mirror and saying those things, mine was, I love me. I love myself. That was the defining moment for me because so number one, I was the little cripple girl, one leg bigger than the other, one foot's deformed, and accepting the fact that, when you're a victim, when you're playing a victim, you get treated like the victim. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
You get
man.
treated like the victim. And so people start to treat you like the victim. They
Mm-hmm.
start giving you the little crumbs. They
Yeah.
talk to you any kind of way.
Oh
They
yeah.
condescend you. And so I was like, you know what? I don't like being the victim. I don't like being
I,
pacified.
you know,
So
and
you have to
yeah.
go through and I was like, okay, you know what? It's a part of the awakening. Because when you stood in the mirror and you said, you know what, I am an adult child of an alcoholic, and that freed you, it not only did it free you, but it freed you to the point that there were doors already open. You didn't see those doors
Oh,
because you were weighted down and you probably had the blanket over your face and it
I
was
did.
probably a little bit obscure. But when you said that, how many doors opened from your heart to allow you to be able to walk through?
And it's funny how you said that because it freed me that day. Um, we we buried him. Oh goodness. Like I said, we buried him 3 weeks after Christmas, and then we had a memorial service, and then I was freed again. And I had to really, really, because my father was in the military, so we gave his body to the military, and doing the taps when they give you the flag.
Mm-hmm.
I said, he's gone. I said, my daddy is gone. I said, wow. It was like an eye opener for me. I said to myself, I said, my father had it so hard on this earth. And I used to complain so much prior to his death about life. I said, I got to find a way how to be happy on the inside. So when I wrote about Summer, she's trying to find that way how to be happy because she has been tortured by her father sexually.
Mm.
And she picked up some habits you would read in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I put those habits in there, because as you study psychology and sociology, sometimes when kids pick up bad sexual habits, it's because from what they have learned,
Exactly.
for
And
what
they
that
grow
person
with it.
have done to them.
That's right.
And then let's go back to the daddy issues. I was a big girl. Yeah, I had the womanly shape at 12 years old. So boys around my age, I wasn't attracted to them, and they wasn't attracted to me. So I found older men to be attractive. So here she is. She found this man named Duck, but she's not stupid. She knows he's a man child because she said he act like a man child. Okay, and she falls in love with this womanizer, and she doesn't understand, why do I am falling in love with this man? Here I am, 15 years old, and he's a grown man.
Mm-hmm.
Did these things happen? Yes, they have happened. But nobody did not allure her to him. It just happened. So here she is engulfed with this man, and she's not understanding why.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt the same way too. And I was like, I don't understand it until I took psychology and sociology, went to therapy, and found out my reason why, because Libby had daddy issues.
Libby had all the daddy issues.
All them daddy issues and
Oh, the
mama
daddy
issues.
issues.
Oh,
Oh, the daddy issues. you
Man.
know, we, you know, Libby, I do this thing on, I did an interview the other night after the book slam,
Mhm.
and and on there it was about relationships, and there were, the lady, the host, asked questions for men and women, and I just finished listening to somebody's story on the book slam, and it just kind of brought back all of the things we really have to start having conversations about things, because people keep it bottled up inside, and there's nowhere for it to go, and it comes out negatively.
Yes,
It
it
comes
does.
out in your behavior,
Yeah.
in sexual behavior,
Hmm.
in promiscuous, in abusive
Yeah.
behavior, being the abuser and the abusee. It comes out in all those ways because we're not having conversations about it. And one of the reasons we're not having conversations about it is because there's shame there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, okay, but you didn't create the shame.
No.
And so we also don't want to have conversations because, you know what, mama and them, we've been taught what goes on in the house, stay in the house.
Stays in the house.
Don't
Oh,
have business. Don't
complacent
have business.
language, complacent expression. Yes, I
Exactly.
had
So,
that. I was
no,
raised like
can't,
that.
we can't tell. Me
Yes,
too.
you can't tell.
Don't tell.
Oh,
And I've said it to my children. Look, don't go out here telling my business.
yeah,
What
I did
go on
too.
here, what go on in my house, stay in my house. It's not anybody's business. And that hurts too when a child needs help and there's nobody for them to tell, because they've been conditioned. I can't
Yeah.
tell. I can't tell. So I started telling my children, if you can't talk to me, I want you to talk to me. If you can't talk to me, talk to my sister, talk to your auntie,
Yeah.
talk to somebody. Don't keep it inside. Talk to
No.
somebody. I
And
want you to talk to me. And we have to have those conversations. I love that you've hit all of those, I call them trigger issues
hmm
in your book. All of those trigger
yeah.
issues, because where there's something in there that may not have happened to me, there's three or four other things that you have going on in that book that has happened that I can
Right.
relate to directly. And that's all of us, especially, we're more quiet, I think, than people of color are more quiet
Yeah.
than other nationalities, because we've been conditioned to be quiet and suffer in silence.
Yes. Yes. And I want to say something about that. You're absolutely correct. I was not able to express myself. I was not taught how to express myself. My mother and I, we used to clash a lot about that because I did not know how to properly communicate with people. I used to communicate with people with passive aggressive answers, passive aggressive solutions. I did not know how to properly communicate because what I saw at home was mommy and daddy not communicating
Mhm.
well with each other. So I picked that habit up and I brought that into my teenage years, and I also brought it into my marriage, and that's not a good thing. So
Mhm.
now I'm unlearning these behaviors
Yeah.
because I want to be a much healthier person, because I already, me, my sister, and quite a few of my cousins, we broke that generational
Yes,
curse that we
ma'am.
were not going to marry a man that is an alcoholic. My grandmothers, they did, my aunts did, and we said we wasn't going to do it.
Mm.
And I said, and I don't want no violence in my home, and I broke those generational curses. So as you go into A Time to Forgive Part 1 and Part 2 and also Part 3, Summer is going to try to break those general curses because they're not healthy.
No,
They're not
no,
healthy. They're
no.
not healthy at all. And she's going to look at things in a whole different light of being this woman now. She's going to be this woman now that's going to be a mother and
Wow.
that's going to be a wife.
I love this. Listen, you know what? Our time goes by so fast. We have just a
Girl,
few
we
more.
could be on here all day.
Listen, we're gonna have to do a part two because there's so many things. Because I would love to dive into those
Okay.
those things. There I'm gonna have a few people on, and maybe we can do just a whole panel discussion
Sure.
about some of those things. I
And
read.
also, LaQuita, I don't want to interrupt you. I'm
No,
sorry.
go ahead.
I also put in there colorism.
Yes.
When she talks about her grandmother is this fair skinned evil. She calls her the
Wicked Witch in the East
the wicked witch of the South.
of the South.
She says she's the most vilest woman in Georgia.
Mm, mm,
And here she is, this black, mean woman. And I'm talking about downright dirty, mean, even to her own people.
mm.
But one thing she tells Summer in this one part, she tells her, don't you ever in life compare yourself to a white woman. And I remember my grandmother telling us that because my grandmother grew up on a plantation, on her grandfather's plantation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And she saw a lot.
Mm.
She used to tell us that don't compare yourself to them. Don't do it. And I used to be like, okay. I had to step back, and I did not understand my grandmother's mind frame because she was always in this box. They used to think that she was this white woman, but once she talks, they knew that she was black.
Mm-hmm.
And she did not allow anybody to run over her. So
Mm-hmm.
I did talk about a little bit about
I like
colorism.
that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. And you know what? That's important. I do a mentoring program, and it's called for girls, and it's called Beauty Redefined. And it's all about redefining the beauty from the inside out. So we're looking at each other. I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. Our skin colors are, we're both black women. Our
Yeah.
skin tone is different colors.
Right.
And I don't know how your hair is, but because you have it tied, but my hair is curly. And
And I'm bald.
some
I
might say,
shaved it
okay,
off, honey.
some might say, okay, well, her hair is nappy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and so I teach the girls that that's not a terminology that we came up with. You don't have nappy hair. Your hair texture is different because of your nationality, where you come from. And my skin is one color, your skin is one color, but that doesn't mean that you're better than me or I'm better than you. It just means that I have to love me from the inside out.
Right.
And not compare
Absolutely.
myself to somebody else. No. And so there are people who will look, and TV is bad, 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 because they look at all these people who have gotten prepped before they get in front of the screen, and they don't know what they're looking at. So this is the role model. This is who I want to, I want to be like. So I'm going to frame myself like this person. And if I'm not a Coca-Cola bottle shaped, or I don't have
Yes.
long hair and wear makeup, I don't wear
Yeah.
makeup. That's my choice. I don't wear makeup. I don't wear lipstick. I wear Vaseline on my lips. And that's my choice. I don't knock people who wear makeup. I think it's beautiful. It's just not me. And it's not because I don't like it. It's because, girl, I don't want to take the time to do all that.
Yeah, it's
It's a
time
lot of work,
consuming. It's
but
time consuming.
there are kids who have bought into that,
Yeah.
and they have lost their identities before they
Yeah.
even know who it is. So I
Yeah.
love that you talked about that, because when I was coming up in school, all the light skinned girls with the long hair, they got all the boyfriends and the attention.
Let me tell you something. I'm brown skinned. I got. I wasn't part of
The
the light
elite group.
skin. Yeah, I wasn't. I was just a brown skinned girl. And then I remember this. This was so stupid. I went out on a date, and this man told me, he looked at me and he said to me, he said, "You can't produce light skinned babies."
Say what now, huh?
He told, yeah. He said, "I know you can." He said, "I don't want to talk to you no more." And he got up and left. Now, my daughter is fair skinned, but I said, this old dumb pro-black idiot of a man gonna tell me something like that. Black women, we produce all kinds of children.
Okay,
I
I
said,
have 3 children. 3. My son is probably the color of my screen. My son is dark. My middle child is a little bit about your complexion, and my youngest child is lighter than you. And they all 3 have the same mama, same
they
daddy.
daddy. Yeah. And
So it's so crazy. We're gonna have another conversation. We're gonna have
yes,
to do this again. But listen, tell people where they can connect with you
sure.
and take about, if you can do it in like a minute and tell us about the mind reader group that you have.
Okay, well, the Mind Readers group is for aspiring writers, seasonal writers, and people that love to read. So I'm encouraging people to promote their work, promote the book that you love. I'm also doing a story time on A Time to Forgive. We're finishing up chapter 2, going into chapter 3. So come join um mind readers, and I'm also on Instagram. Uh, I am Libby Warner, and I'm also on Twitter, Libby Warner _100.
Awesome. Awesome. So, Libby, thank you so much for taking the time to come and sit and have this conversation with
Thank
me
you for
today.
having me.
Yeah, it has been a pleasure. Libby and I met on the Book Slam,
Yes,
and
we
I will
did.
be hosting the Book Slam every second Tuesday of the month. So I'll be back again in August hosting the Book Slam. It's on Clubhouse, and it is Indy Brennan's platform.
Yeah,
But
indeed.
it is
Yes.
amazing, and that's how Libby and I met.
Yeah,
It is always a pleasure. I love working with people, and I am so glad to have connected with you.
I am
We
glad I
have,
connected with you too.
we have some similar things going on. I'm a
Yeah,
publisher, you're a publisher, and you know what? And that doesn't bother me. Sometimes, and I've had people to say, "Oh, you know what? You're a publisher. You can't collaborate with me, or you can't work with me," and I didn't understand that because there's a McDonald's and a Burger King and a Wendy's on every corner. And when I drive down my street, I pass Wendy's. Then next 2 doors down is McDonald's, and then across the street is Wendy's, a Burger King. Everybody eating burgers. Everybody's eating burgers. There are
right.
8 billion people on the planet. I can't publish that many books, and neither can you.
No.
And working with people, collaborating with people is how you grow. And I am so excited to meet you. And we're in the Black Women Authors group together.
Yes,
So I am
yes,
so excited about
absolutely.
that. But listen, reach out to Libby, connect with her on Facebook and Instagram. Are you on LinkedIn?
I am. I'm on LinkedIn.
And
Yes,
LinkedIn.
yes.
Connect with her and get there and get her book. Get her book. And listen, if there's something that I can do to help you take your story from a thought to a realization, it does not matter where you are in your story writing journey. If you have a story, and I know that you do because 100% of everybody living and dead has a story, I can help you tell that story. If you have started writing your story and you're like, okay, LaQuita, I started writing the story, but I'm stuck, I can help you get unstuck. If you have already written your story, you just need a publisher, I can help you publish your story. We do feedback, we do coaching and development. No matter what you do, write your story, tell your story, share your story, help somebody heal, and take your power back. So it has been a plump, pleasing pleasure, y'all. I kept these glasses on the whole time.
You
The whole
did.
time,
You did
y'all.
good.
I hadn't had these glasses on in years. It has been a pleasure. I am so looking forward to getting your book. I'm going to order your book and I'm going to read it, and we're going to come back and we're going to do a part 2. And we're going to talk about some of those social things that's going on that people not talking about. There's
Absolutely.
too many people who are trying to heal from sexual trauma that
Yes.
started when they were a child, and they didn't know how to break it, and they didn't
Didn't.
get help, and they didn't get. I mean, it's blowing my mind. So listen, reach out to me. I'm LaQuita Parks with Pay Pro V Publishing, and it's right here at the bottom of the screen. Reach out to Libby and see how she can help you, and let's connect. This
Let's
has been
connect.
great, Libby. Thank you so much,
Thank
and
you, LaQuita.
it has been a plump, pleasing pleasure. Better than a triple decker peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So until next time, we are here every Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is the power of your story, because I believe there is power in your story. Until next week, be good, be kind. Don't get in no trouble, y'all. And if you need us, you know where to find us. Until next time, thank you so much, Libby. We'll
Thank
talk
you,
later.
LaQuita. Bye.
Allow us at Eddie B Productions to capture, create, and celebrate all of your greatest moments. Let us turn your joy into memories that will last forever. As we remember our beloved Eddie Blick Jr., the very reason we do it all, we aim to put a smile on your face and also your heart. Whether a birthday party, wedding planning, organizing an event, or photography, we can service all your needs. You can follow us on Instagram at Eddie B Productions, email us at eddie_productions93@outlook.com, or call us at 410-303-0101 for all your event planning, decoration, fun, and photography needs. We look forward to working with you. Allow us at Eddie B Productions to